go ahead. What time is it? Is there a clock around? Is somebody?
6:33.
6:33, we'll call the meeting to order. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Acoustics in here are a little strange. First of all, do we have any citizens' communication? Okay. We'll go ahead then with item 3, discuss and consider, and all of these are discussion items because this is a work session. The first one on the agenda is a budget discussion, 2A 2022-0757, discussion on a budget for training and investment in causes related to the equity pillars, and James is going to lead this discussion.
Okay, good afternoon. I hope everybody stay cool and is not feeling dehydrated or dizzy or anything. I always like to remind people whenever I speak about anything during this time of the year to please stay hydrated. Please stay in the shade if possible. Walk in the shade if possible. If you're having a conversation outside, stand in the shade. It makes a big difference. But getting to the discussion at hand, budget discussion. So when we last made our presentation to the City Council, the question was asked, did we need budget money? And we stated that yes, we do, but we wanted to come up with an actual proposal to request those monies. We brought this back up. I brought this initiative back up at our last meeting, which actually we're a little late in the game at. There was a recommendation made or a suggestion made that we go with $1,000 or $2,000. However, I want to propose a little more than that. I know that we're late in the game, but $5,000. I've done a lot of work with budgets. City this size, $5,000 you can find. We found over almost $2,000 just on ad hoc training last year in the middle of the year when we got together to create the actual pillars and got a consultant in place. So I wanted to. We talked. I can't make that recommendation for the board, but I was in talking with Jennifer in our conversations. To me, although it's a stretch, there may be some searching. But we shouldn't have to look far. The city shouldn't have to look far to find $5,000 as an initial start-off budget. In my mind, failure to do that would really state basically the feel about the Equity Commission and what we're stated to do here. So I want to put to the floor for discussion a budget starting off of next fiscal year, starting October 1, of $5,000 for the Equity Commission. That money, based on $5,000, would be, hopefully we would be looking for some training if possible. That would make it kind of tight though, but I still think we may be able to find someone to provide some training for this small group for that amount of money. I don't know if we'd have any other monies left, but in future budgets, what I would like us to do is, although we're under the umbrella of the city, for us to be effective, we need to have name branding. And for name branding, one of the things we need to be able to do is to work with our partners, such as the Black Pflugerville. It would have been nice if the Equity Commission could have gave a donation for them or for the Pride Parade. It would have been really nice. It shows that the Equity Commission, not only the city, is for these organizations and what they're doing. And it puts our stamp on their activities. So that's what I it's not for voting, correct? It's just kind of for discussion. But I'd like to throw out for a discussion that we request a $5,000 budget for the Equity Commission for next year.
And to be clear, I'm assuming to make it a formal request, we would, if we approve it here at the work session or talk it through, we would have it on next week's agenda.
Yes.
And question, what would be the items to justify our request besides the training? I assume the training would be about $2,500 and the retreat another whatever?
Well, I don't know. To me, it depends on, you get what you pay for. Whenever I'm personally looking for trainings for my group at work, I don't look for the cheapest training. I look for the most effective one. So I don't, that's within my budget range. So I don't know, you may be able to find one for $2,500, you might be able to find a better one for 4,000, I don't know. We have to go through the process of really digging in and looking at that. In addition to that, as I said, for the other equity and inclusion organizations around the city that do issues, whether it's Cinco de Mayo coming up, or whether for next fiscal year, or as I said, Juneteenth, or Pride, or what have you. Any of the other organizations that fit within our umbrella of being kind of a minority organization that we could use to maybe help fund or assist in funding their endeavors. I know that Pat talked early on about us being visible and having, and having more of a presence in some of these organizations and meetings, and that's why we started off with Black Pflugerville and actually being there and helping support them.
Okay, not disagreeing, okay, because I do think we need a budget. I mean, that was brought up to us, and I'm thinking more in terms of like being able to fund certain ones of, if we have someone that's going to attend some kind of conference or some kind of activity where it would be nice, where it's other people that do what we do that you can go to and learn from. You could we could choose someone. You wouldn't be able to send the whole Equity Commission, but you could certainly send a representative to something like that, probably. But one of my things is in terms of sponsorships and whatnot, the city, like I know, was a large sponsor already, no?
Well, we funded, I would call
Yeah,
it
they funded it,
sponsor.
right.
We-
The city funded.
We paid for it already, so then it would just be moving money from one place.
Yeah, but it would be helpful in terms of people knowing that we're around. But it's already being, because I know both Pride and Juneteenth were largely funded by the city. So, it'd be like perhaps we could, out of our city manager's good graces, she could put our name on some of it, and then we don't have to have that in our budget.
And that would be fine, but, and as I said, really, the $5,000, even for training itself, it's not a lot of money.
Not a lot of money,
I
right?
mean, I've paid for trainings just to send myself for 3 days and paid $4,000.
If I may, I do require my staff do zero-based budgeting, so I wouldn't approve 5,000, y'all be asking them, but my council knows how I do it. So zero-based budgeting means that every single person that does training tells me where they're going, how much lodging is, what it is, and we add that up. So I don't start with numbers, I start with need.
Exactly.
And so we do so I would just, if you're going to ask council, they're used to that with me. So you may want to say, this is how much it costs, because it may be 7,000, maybe 2, it may be, I don't know the numbers, but I know the need. So that's how we do it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we establish the need and then research the price. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's a tax bill, I like that.
But but since we're behind the 8 ball on that,
So I submitted the budget today, but that's okay. I mean, they have until whatever day they approve it, September. We don't have a lot of time, but you have 4 weeks to research, and we can put something, sure. I'm speaking for council, but I'm saying as far as time goes, you have some time. The way we do it is, I've already looked up TML, TCMA, all my training, and I know about how much it is.
right,
Yeah.
right, okay. Okay, well then I would say that would be something that I would probably ask someone to consider taking on some initial research. Are you raising your hand to a volunteer for that?
Well, I was a
Anna?
trainer for 30 years, so yeah.
So you would could you possibly do that between now and next Monday evening? Could you do, or would you need more time for that?
To research what training is available?
What training is available for?
I kind of already started, and I started with contacting the dean of Dell Medical School, because they did an outstanding job of selecting their students for this year. And you should see the variety and the equity that so I've been in conversation with the dean, and he said that they did provide an unbiased training. What did he call it? Equity-based, unbiased consciousness training. And so I'm just waiting to hear back from him as to who it was, where it was, how much it cost, and all that stuff.
Right.
So I also know that Region 13, the Education Service Center, they generally do trainings for $200. And it's really high-quality training, but I'm not ready to say this is good, this is what we can consider. I'm just kind of
Well,
looking
would you be willing
around.
to find like, say, 5, like, and go in a price range that goes from top to bottom and what you think the efficacy would be? And
Yeah.
also, and anyone else that wants to participate in that and work on that?
I really like that idea, James. And maybe one way to kind of justify that could be that city employees would be open to attend. So it's like, we all need it. Everybody needs it. Everybody needs, unbiased training.
Well, I'm going to ask James, because he's the one that has been kind of promoting this. No, are you thinking in terms of a how-to or a what is?
More like an awareness and
I
self-awareness.
think it's,
right?
I
That-
think it's
that
more
would be
so
a more
self-awareness. And like I have been going through a training now with the city. Gentleman, and he just happened to be, I didn't know he was even running the training, so I walked till I got into the training. Jeff Hutchinson, he's with International Training Comp. He is a local doctor. And when I don't mean PhD, I mean medical doctor, MD. Very good guy, retired military guy, is doing a really great training. He's a little pricey, but I think because I could maybe be able to get him down, or at least get a proposal from him. I don't think I could get him down if we had city employees. And my personal opinion wasn't personal view wasn't to say, hey, let's get all the city guys in here.
Yeah.
We need to get ourselves together. We need to understand who we are
Yeah,
and where
yeah.
our shortcomings are, not only mine, but also each other's. Y'all need to know what my shortcomings are. I need to know what y'all's are. That's how and it makes you vulnerable. It does. And a lot of people don't want to go there. But when you go there, then you know where your blind spots are. And I can help cover your blind spots, and you can help cover mine.
I would like to ask you, there again, I'm actually like, because I agree with you, but you will get asked this kind of thing. How does that help us as people that are, leading, who are doing this work, to know each other's vulnerabilities and whatnot? How does that play out in this context? So why is that important for us to have in our toolbox?
You
'Cause
know,
that's a question that would get asked.
I
I
think
would
when
answer it.
people have blind spots, they don't necessarily publicly display where that blind spot is. They just shield away from it. So if I have a blind spot against, and I'll just throw if I have a blind spot against women, then I'm not going to promote what we're doing with women. I may not actively, go against it, but I'm not going to support it really. And that's where that kind of comes in at.
The built-in biases that you're not even aware of.
Right, exactly. And see, and we do that subconsciously, and we all do it. I'm not, I have biases. I found some of mine out. I won't share them with you. I'll let y'all find them out. As I find out y'all's. It'll be reciprocity. But that's what I am trying to get to, because what we do, we just shade. And we think nothing's wrong with it. We just shade away to what we have a bias against. And we focus here instead of over here.
Okay, so that'd be one aspect of it.
My recommendation was strictly budget and as a devil's advocate to try and get the council to say yes to it. That's all. I agree that the smaller the group, the better.
Yeah. Well, I think that we would be the starting point, because then we can always invite people and other people, from different city departments. We could even get to a point that we could be talking about these things to other departments and whatnot. I don't think we could do trainings. but I certainly would never be
Yeah.
qualified to do that.
I wouldn't want to do a training. No.
But we could share information. We
Yeah,
could
we
be
could.
information
And the city
sharers.
does do a lot. of
Do their
training,
own stuff.
Which I would think that we.
I think that, you know, and I realize, you know, that the city, because y'all are very highly equipped and everything, I think this is more like as people come into this role, it's like at a different level of what the expectations of us are. And we have a pretty solid group right now, which is nice, and it'd be nice to get us trained up, so to speak, with some, you know, like I said, to have a more tools in the toolbox for doing the work and teaching us really what to ask and what to explore, because we're at that point of exploration, and how do we bring that to the community?
Right.
I do want to say that the idea of getting our, you know, James used the word branding, but really just for the community awareness of the Equity Commission, and to bring the concerns and issues that they have, you know, beyond the city government, you know, because that's what we're here to, is the leaders within the city, you know, for the council, for the city government. Some ways, and I don't know if anyone wants to put some time into finding out, you know, like what kind of costs go with that, or if there's always ways of going, you know, we need to start if someone wants to take it on. And I keep saying someone, I'm not saying that I won't do it also, but I keep saying someone because I'm not sure I want to do all this by myself. But things like writing a piece up periodically for the, what's the little Friday thing? Pflugerville. Oh, come on,
What?
the Pflugerville.
Impact?
No, the Friday. Thank you, the key to the city. I was just drawing a blank, the key to the city, you know, and things like that, you know, whenever, because the city puts out its own information, and, you know, geez, why not have a little thing in there? Well, the Equity Commission is talking about blah, blah at its next meeting. If you would like to come, you know, and talk to us, you know, ahead of time, or if you have an issue, come and tell us so that we can certainly get it on a future agenda, you know, just something like that. I would like to hear from all kinds of different groups and folks in the community, and we just, you know, an awareness campaign, so to speak, and there's ways that you can do that without dollars and cents, but like you said, community impact. But I'm going to tell you right now, to advertise there is dang expensive. I've looked into that for a variety of different issues and things, so it's pretty expensive. But we do have the Pfluger, who knows, maybe set up an interview with the Pflugerville flag or something, you know? Let someone
Does
talk
it
to them.
even exist?
Huh? It would exist within the Statesman. I know my husband reads something that he always tells me that he's reading the Pflugerville newspaper, and I'm like, there is not a Pflugerville newspaper anymore. And he's always saying, yes, I am, because he reads it on his little iPad.
Well, I think James brings up really good points. You know, the training is a great idea. I really like that. That's why I volunteered to do the research on that. And I do think that the branding is also a good idea, even though, I mean, we exist at the pleasure of the council.
Right.
Anytime they choose to do away with us, you know, we're gone.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. I think that the thing is we're such a new commission still. I don't think people know it exists.
Right.
Okay?
No,
And
I
I think
agree.
that this is
Those are
more about,
great
that's why I'm
points.
saying utilizing the city's own avenues. It's just, we need to be proactive. We've not been reactive or proactive or inactive. We've been inactive, I guess, because we haven't, you know, we've been so busy setting it all up.
So, I mean, and here I am trying to be thrifty. It's like, does the city already provide like equity-based training?
Yes.
Couldn't we attend those trainings?
We require all employees to go through even a pronoun training, and that's online.
Pronoun? Shit, I need that.
And then we do another equity piece, and then, so a lot of that is online. We have close to 500 employees, so
Oh,
I
great.
can't really, it's
Okay,
hard to.
so it's not face-to-face
We
training?
do have some, so PD has gone through it many days and continue to do those kind of trainings. I've had staff, we do webinars together, so
Yes.
have a training that way. So various trainings, different ways,
Yes.
different for different groups.
See, let me tell you what I like about that. Like, when you do online stuff, the learner takes more out of it if you have a discussion afterwards. So if we were to connect to that kind of training and save us money, we could each watch whatever modules at home at our own time, and when we come together, we debrief and we have discussions about the content.
And I know this training with with Dr. Hutchinson, it's been online, but you can hide online. If I'm extroverted,
But you can't
you're
hide in the
extroverted,
discussions here.
somebody else introverted, you can just sit back.
Who's introverted?
No, you're not.
Neither are you.
Oh, no, I said I'm not.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, Virginia may be introverted.
I
Tony
suspect-
may be introverted. You know, Victor may be introverted. So,
I actually am.
yeah.
I really am
So, I'm not saying you and I aren't. I don't ever claim to be introverted at all. But you can hide. You know, when you're not face to face, when you're face to face, even if you don't say nothing, I can watch your body language.
Well, James, have you put a price to that particular training that you're talking about?
No, I have not. And I will come back at our next meeting and I will have a price. But also as part of this budget request, even if we do find a great savings, that is awesome. But one of the things we need to do, and I don't want to spill over from one budget item to one line item on the meeting agenda to the next, but we developed this committee 2 years ago, and we talked about partners that we're going to work with, and we listed them in our charter statement. We haven't reached out to them, we haven't connected to them.
I
We've
need that
given-
list.
Yeah, but that was a
it's
different
on-
commission. You know, we're a new commission. We weren't really a part of that
I
discussion.
understand,
Is
I
it in there?
understand. It's on that original
That original
presentation.
presentation, okay. I think I remember
Uh-huh.
seeing that.
But
Which
also.
is great.
But also, as part of that, we need to be able to say, we started these 2 years ago. We said on these pillars where we are. Do we need to add to these? Do we need to take away from some of the things we need to do? Do we need to internally assess where we are in the progress that we've made? You know, I mean, that's part of that second piece of that budgetary funding, that retreat, and to get somebody to say, hey, let's look at where we are, and let's really look at where we're going. Because right now, I think we're doing some good things, but we're kind of doing things as we.
Can I get a definition of retreat? I mean, could it be something where we have a room here at the library during the day and we have, I mean, and we have lunch brought in and we spend some time, I mean, because that's, you know, dollars and cents. Because as much as I would just adore all of you, I'm not sure I want to go out of town with you. or
Oh, no, no, no,
anything.
no, no, no. I'm not saying we need to go anywhere.
Okay.
We can definitely do it here. But, you know, even when we talk about partners in equity in the city, right now we've connected with two.
Who?
Black Pflugerville and the Pride Commitment, right? I think there are more than that.
Oh, there used to be, there was a group that, an OLA group that formed, but it didn't stay alive. It hasn't stayed alive, and there are others. We need to work on reaching out to some of those groups.
Exactly. What I'm thinking is that as you reach out to these groups and you find out what their needs are and they find out what your mission is, they can help guide us in how we move forward. Because then we can use them as performance matrices to see how we're doing based on their individual needs. Because right now, we're thinking this is what we need. And everything we put on that paper, on our charter, original charter, was only based off the people in that room. And I'm like, if we're helping the community, don't we need to hear from the community? If we don't, why are we having city council meetings? Just do what y'all do.
They're required by law.
You know, I understand. I mean, but that's why, my retreat is really, you know, I'm always, at the end of the day, I'm always sitting back and I'm saying, I do this personally. What have you accomplished? What have you done? And if you've done it, are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for your family? What are you doing it? Who are you doing it for? And for me, in turn, personally, I'm always measuring what in my day-to-day life, how does it affect my wife and my children and my grandchildren? But at this commission, I would think, how is it affecting the community? Do we hear from the community? We need that input.
Then I would say that, you know, you've asked that we propose a budget of $5,000, and I would ask that between now and next week, you know, we can go with that, and the two items that we're looking at funding would be a retreat and a training, because that's two separate things. And, but between now and then, we find out the cost of said trainings, you know, of how that would work, so that we have something to officially recommend that has got some documentation to it. Does that make sense?
It does.
So, does anyone else have any recommendations on that? And if not, because we can move on,
On
because
the
that's
retreat?
no, not on the retreat. The retreat would, no, I'm just saying, those would be the two items that would go into a budget request. And in terms of defining that, like I said, I agree with James, that's not a lot of money to do either a training or a retreat, but that's why I said, could we do it like in a setting like this almost, but with, now, would a retreat, let me ask this question, would it have to be formally like this, recorded and everything?
Yes.
Everything that does that on y'all's retreats too, on y'all, oh, interesting, okay.
Well, yeah, council retreats, yes.
Okay, that's what I mean. I just wanted to know exactly what that means and everything.
We can go recording or streaming, but not the formality of an open meeting. I should
Okay.
clarify.
Okay. I'm just curious what it means, because a retreat and some of the things that James was talking about can get fairly personal as well, and so that's putting people in at-risk situations, and they might not be comfortable in, and so,
Am I not allowed to invite everybody to my house for a
No,
party?
not a quorum. So, all
Just
public-
socially? No?
we could post socially, and then you have to pinky swear with me that you will not discuss business.
Actually, well, that's one of the purposes of a retreat is bonding.
If you can y'all can go out tonight, every night, as long as you're not discussing business. Kitty cats, baseball.
define business in terms of like, we're gonna do this or we're gonna do that. Can you talk equity in general?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could do bonding and then goal setting. That's what it is, and that's when it,
Yeah, if it's goal setting, it should be done.
right, I understand,
I
I
agree.
understand, absolutely. But it's a nice transition into, it's like, you're concerned about us not following through with our partners. It's like, pardon this, but this is really a complaint. Every time we meet, we have something new to do. It's like ADD. It's like we never finish anything. We just get a tiny touch
Well,
of
that's
something.
part, a good,
It's like, oh my gosh.
a good retreat, kind of thing
Yes.
is where you kind of coalesce all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like great breaths.
We have a lot of
No
information
depth.
that we've brought in this year, a lot of information. I've been thinking about that, how we need to sit down and go over, well, we did this, and we got this, and we got this, and now let's pull it
I think we need to
together.
take it to an even higher level, and I think you've started doing that, and that is like delegate. We have highly competent people on this commission, delegate. Have them come back, whoever volunteers, come back with a report. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels. I feel that, I feel that. It's like,
No,
we
no.
just sit and talk.
I agree. I agree. I think that that is a issue with any nonprofit organization. There is so much to do without a strong strategic plan in place to help guide you.
Right.
And one of the things that I would love to see us do either now or even if we do modifications to our existing charter, we need to have that charter posted and we need to look at it. So when we're talking about things, we need to say, where does it fit in the pillar?
I think we have to go
You
even
know.
further than that. A calendar and say, these are our goals. We should do all this stuff, that goes with this pillar by this date. Assign dates to them. Otherwise, it's not going to get done.
I mean, I agree to a point with that. I'm just thinking that there is always something that's going to come up. So I am part of an organization, Chief O'Malley knows, the 100 Black Men. So a part of that organization, we said our main goal is mentoring. But then we had to, in the pandemic, really pivot because of the need. And the greater need was people were looking for food. We started, assisting people with food bags, and we were donating the food bags. So you have to have some room in there
Absolutely.
to pivot.
Yes.
You just can't say, here's the date, this is all we're doing. I don't have time for that. But you got to be able to say, hey, this is still within the umbrella. Do we have room for that?
Absolutely. But if we look at this through the lens of a regular taxpayers will say, oh, that's just another group wasting time. They love to hear themselves talk and never get anything done. And then that's what distracts them from participating. And, it's like, I want to fight against that idea. And I want people to know that the commission exists and that they want to identify, I want them to identify us as a group that gets stuff done for them. I just don't want us spinning our wheels all the time.
Oh, I will take, oh, go ahead,
I
Claudia.
was going to say, if I can add, I mean, this sounds very analogous to my professional life where, you know, I work with the board of directors and they have some very high-level things that are in their charter. And then there's the things that come up, to your point, that, you know, who cares what the charter says? Reality is reality and you have to adjust, right? So I think we can maybe find a middle ground of the two and say, we have pillars, we know what those very high-level objectives are, and we want them to be consistent year to year, commission to commission. So I think we could maybe solve, like, the concern I'm hearing, and the way we solved it in my professional life is the committee that I serve has a charter, but then they also have a checklist. And the checklist is very high level, and it's pulled directly from items on the charter, right? So in our case, we have a charter, we have the pillars. We can find what is that high level objective, and let's assign a specific time of the year, a quarter, a month, whatever makes sense, that, you know, that is when we are targeting to discuss, address, work on, whatever. But then, you know, leave the wiggle room for those things that, you know, are
Absolutely.
gonna come up.
Yeah, yeah.
But that way we have something that, like you said, we know, you know, we have to hit that checklist item.
Right.
This is
One
the time
one
of
of the
year.
things I would like to say, because it's that I have felt like and in terms of leading the group this year, that I have tried to do, is we have the pillars, and I've tried to bring information communities in that fit under the pillars. So I do honestly feel like what you're saying we have been doing. I think we could take some time to say, like, for example, when we had the county judge here, what did we learn? How did that fit in with the, you know, health and wellness and everything? And we had, in terms of, you know, because we had Alicia come and talk to us, you know, in the interest of Black Pflugerville and whatnot, and the issues there, and where did that fit and within which pillars? I think that's what, I feel like we've been information gathering. The first year was establishing what you're talking about, the high level with the pillars, and I do feel that across this year we've been doing that, but maybe we need to spend some time. And I had actually thought about this, you know, we need to sit down and just go through, that's what I meant by go through our minutes, reflect on what we have accomplished, how that fits with each one, and what are the action items from each. And so we've taken in a ton of information this year, but it hasn't been organized, is what I
No, I
think you're
agree.
saying.
We have been working on it, but I don't know if you remember the old business training of urgent and important. Urgent is the stuff that comes up and you take on, you know, it's like as it comes. Important are the pillars. And we're spending more time on the urgent stuff than on the important stuff that builds the commission, that builds the work
But these are the
that we're
things
doing.
that are the pillars. These are the things that actually make the
We don't
pillars.
really know, well, what is it? Perception and reality can only be cleared up by looking at the data and doing a reflection, maybe in a retreat or something, looking at how effective are we? What have we done? This is not an attack on
No,
leadership
I'm not saying that.
at all.
I'm not completely understanding, because I think that you have to go in steps, and I think that
Right.
year one was, you know, like establishing what the heck is the Equity Commission?
Right.
And that was you know, and they established, the pillars were the guiding principles that you're gonna work under. Well, then you've got to understand what that means, and we've essentially been doing the research. And so I think what you're asking for is the step that's the third step. What are the action items that come out of the information?
Yes.
In all honesty, I kind of feel like that's still a little bit of a step ahead of the game, because we still haven't done certain things in terms of getting, unless we want to just stop and focus, for example, on health, okay, and well-being, and say we've done X, Y, and Z, and do just one, if that would be better, if you think that that would be a formula that would be better.
No, what I think would be a good idea is for us to have a retreat with the council, because then we can get a better idea as to what goals they have for the commission. Because we
Well,
don't.
that's it.
And I just want to clarify, there are 5 goals that were set by council, and I'd be
That's the
happy to go
pillars.
through those. No, there were 5 goals set through the ordinance for this commission to do, and then the previous commission before you were on it held a retreat training and came up with the pillars. So you still do have direction from council that are 5 things, and they fall close to you could put them in the pillars. But council has determine what those are.
Okay.
But I do agree with you, Pat. I think that we just can't jump out there and it's anxious. You get anxious. You just want to do, what you got to learn. It's kind of like saying we're giving food out and we're just doing it, and then we're in Westlake giving out food. Hey, we're giving it out. But everybody's getting it going to their McMansion. So I do think that we've done some good things, and Serena, you brought that to light when we were struggling, saying, hey, you got to learn, you got to get educated on what we're doing.
And we're happy to give suggestions on actions. Y'all could do listening tours. There's quite a bit that we'd be happy to suggest that you want to do. You could engage with us in our festivals. Maybe we could, set up a booth for you, get some literature. I like the idea of listening sessions in the community, and start really listening to the people to see what their concerns are. I think is a good data point. We're happy to give suggestions on actions at any time you desire.
And I appreciate that guidance, but as I stated, these organizations firsthand we need to have some communication with, and we need to establish some rapport with.
The other thing about listening sessions, they would need to be very well defined.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise they would get all over the map. So once again, it would be a listening, they would need to be well defined, because you
About
couldn't go
particular
in and
theme.
say, we're gonna have a listening session on all 5 pillars. Because then you're all, it's, you're like this.
Right.
Okay, and nothing gets accomplished. It would have to be, we are going to talk about this, and it's one item.
Yep.
Okay? And have the community come in that is, and that has ownership in that, because, for example, one of our pillars is, education, access to education and whatnot. You're gonna get more from the educational community then, okay? Or when the community health, and everything, you're going to get more people with, that have that as their driving thing. But if you want to have a dialogue with the community, you've really got to define it well, because, and for them as well as for you, because you'll be there. It's not just you would be there all night long, you would just not get any information. You wouldn't learn from it. So, and I would have no issue with that whatsoever. I think that would be a fine idea. The city could set up, quote, listening sessions. We could determine as a group which one we wanted to start with, and do that. And it could be advertised in the key to the city, I remember now, and in other ways. So that might be something that would come out of, and this is all the topic we're under here, guys, I kind of need to rope this back in, is under budget discussion. I guess that would fall under, that wouldn't really fall under retreat or the two things that we were decided, but I guess I'm trying to say, I want to make sure we're sticking to the agenda.
I'll be quiet after
This would be
one.
more like in a retreat.
I want one more, because I think this is important. The way that we do budget is, I've already stated we state our need, but we also tie it, the reason I think they tie perfectly, we tie everything we do to the strategic plan of the city and to the goals of the department. So that actually is very important. We physically will say, this goes to safety, this goes to. So if I was doing a budget in this group, I would say, this will help me do pillar number 1, and then,
Okay, that's what you think.
so I do believe they tie.
Okay.
I don't want to discount what y'all are talking about, it's very important.
Okay, so, that's why that makes more sense to me, but then I think a little.
So are we gonna make a motion and vote on it?
I don't think we make on motions, we make a motion at the meeting. This is a work session. So the motion would be at next Monday's meeting. So I would say, sure, and we'll make a motion for a budget at next Monday's meeting, and with the specifics to what it would be, which at this point in time, we have the 2 categories. So I would say that we could add that 3rd category. I don't know what it would actually cost to have listening sessions, but we could say, what would you call them besides listening sessions? Is that what you guys call them, Serena?
Community outreach?
Community conversations is.
Community
whatever.
conversations.
Can I ask, have we done listening sessions prior to? I'm sure we have.
I'm proposing that to council, we have a work session coming up on it, a lunch and learn soon, where it's really where you show up and don't speak, and you actually just listen. I would say we haven't done that.
Imagine that.
Instead of a town hall meeting, which is where information is being pumped, this would literally be, you ask 3 questions. That's it. and you don't rebuttal, you don't do anything, and then we would go back and take that information and say, is there something here that we can do with it? You could survey people too, but that's not the same. I mean, people in a room at a community center, people in an HOA meeting. And I also believe that listening sessions should be off public sites. Go to where people are, go to their churches, go to the Pee Wee football game, go to the people, ask 3 questions, whatever you want to ask them, and then do
And
it.
just listen.
Just listen, not, not what I do.
Fine with that. Pardon me.
This is why
I mean, something like that.
Absolutely.
I agree, but this is for, what I'm thinking is, just as we have a large population in the city of Pflugerville, but only a small fraction of people show up for city council meetings.
Every community across America.
I understand. That is no slight, you're right. Every community across, but usually who shows up are the community activists. So that's why we identified in that charter, these are partners. If you invite the head of those organizations, you bring them in for a lunch, we have that listening session with them. We're, in my mind, and I may be wrong, we're more likely to get more response because we're focusing on the community activists that are listening to the people. And it's just an idea. I'm not trying to steer us one way or another. If we go this route, I don't want us to have 5 people in here, and then we just.
But I do want to keep us on, we're kind of.
We're all over the place.
We're all over the place, and this agenda item is budget discussion. And so right now, what I have picked up, what I think we are saying is that we would like to recommend or ask the council for a budget of $5,000 to include community conversations, retreat, and training. Those the 3, okay? Because I think that, and then which would align with, like what, like any kind of community conversations would align with specifics, that are already in our, what would be the word, our guiding principles.
Should we have somebody do a slight budget or something on a retreat? Or some options to turn in for a retreat, or no? Do we need that?
If I was thinking of retreat off top, I'd just say lunch, and then a facilitator.
Yeah, but don't we need that for the presentation to the council?
I don't think we're making a presentation to the council, we're giving it to Serena.
You're turning in something, right?
But it goes to her, no?
No, the commission, if you're asking for a budget, I've already turned in my budget, so I would have you'll be asking the council for budget. Yeah.
Okay. That I did not
I mean,
understand,
I could email it to them, but it's the commission asking for.
a budget.
Which is why my concern was, we already heard
Okay,
no.
but this is something has to be done in a week, and I'm going to be point blank honest with all of you. I don't have time to do that this week. I guess I could make the time, but if someone wants to give me the data, if they can do the research on the cost of something like this, I would really appreciate that help.
I will go ahead and start making some calls and seeing, and that's for that information that we're bringing next week.
You'd need to get that to me so that I can get it to the council. So James could email me this kind of information directly? No?
Well, but don't we need to discuss
send it to
this at the
Jennifer.
next meeting, and then after we agree based on, because you're also
True.
providing information, you're going to do, and that's what I'd like to do.
Oh, I see what
I'd
you're
like us
saying.
to have
Yep.
several options
I like that.
that we're looking at, and then based on those options, we identify this is what we want to go with. These are the costs, and then we make a motion on it, we approve it at this level, then we provide it to Serena as an addendum to her budget, and then we present on that at council at the appropriate time.
Exactly,
So-
so we should bring this information by Monday, the 8th?
Bring it to Monday, the 8th meeting, yes. At which time we will make the final
So I'm
recommendation.
doing the training, and who's doing the retreat? You are, James?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to see if I can get a little bit of information on both. I don't think that too little, and I would encourage Virginia, Claudia, Pat, if you have some time,
I'm not sure that I'm
She's not well.
yet
understand.
up to doing anything except
Three.
Understand, understand.
You're encouraging them to do research as well?
Yes.
Oh, you don't trust me, James?
Oh, no, I just said the more the merrier. And I trust nobody without verification. I used to be an auditor. Trust but verify.
Okay.
My wife's
Okay.
the exception.
So we have a work session game plan on item 3A, okay? And which will go on to agenda for our August the 1st, or not, August the 8th meeting, okay? Okay, well, we discussed item 3B, it's, I think, to some extent already. So we can, if it's okay with you guys, I'll just say that that has been covered, because we talked about the retreat. And so Anna did some work on voting equity.
Before
Oh,
we
I'm
get
sorry.
there,
Yeah.
one more thing. When we talk about a retreat, it would be good, even as part of that retreat and even as part of the previous training on numbers, timeframes. What are you guys seeing timeframes? Retreat, is that a half-a-day retreat? Is that an all-day retreat? I don't think it'd be a two-day retreat.
No.
But, you know, I'm trying to get an gauge idea so that when we are all discussing things, as we reach out, we're all coming from the same place. And you're not getting an estimate on 2 hours and I'm getting one on 6.
I would say essentially what would be a half day, but I would think of it more like 10 to 2, and then you have lunch in there in the middle or something, you know? So you got a 4 hours, a half a day retreat, but it gives you a chance to take a little break and socialize a little bit, which usually loosens up and gets you going again and everything.
And we will be prefacing both of those
And I
on a
suggest
Sunday.
10 to 3, I think. 4 hours of actual work and an hour.
Well, yeah, that sounds fine. It's just kind, yeah. And that could all be, kind of be a TBD, you know, kind of thing, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, so we can stop and eat and not be working. Great.
And we would think that'd be on a Saturday.
I would think it would be on a weekend, yeah, because several of the people in this room work still. Make it easier. Okay? And so like I said, we've already done retreat. Anna now is going to take over for a few minutes. We're going to have a discussion on voting in relation to equity
And I'm
issues.
sorry, one more thing, that was for the retreat, for the training hours. Are we thinking the same thing for the training as well?
Yeah.
No, I would think that the training itself determines the length.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's going to be dependent on what the people say they do. What their program
Understand, I was
is.
just thinking the time frame. It would be less than a day.
It could be
Because
a
they
day.
got 2-day trainings, they got week trainings, they got, you know.
Oh, it'd be a day.
It'd be a
Yeah,
day,
it'd be a
yeah.
day. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try one more time.
I'm leaving it alone, I'm sorry, I have nothing else to say. Forgive me, ma'am, forgive
Okay,
me.
so, and I'm going to turn it over to Anna. Now, I am going to excuse myself for just a second, so I'm going to go to the restroom, but y'all can start. Okay.
If my clicker would work.
And then all done.
Oh, you got a nice PowerPoint.
Yeah, neither one is working.
Wow.
I'll drive.
Let me turn it off and turn it back on. It was working earlier. Does it recharge or something?
Vanna Griswold. Like Vanna White. Turn in the letters.
It's okay.
I think the computer is probably frozen, that's why it's not working.
Okay. Are we waiting on Pat?
You can go ahead and start.
Okay.
They have the slides.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we decided at the last time that we needed some data on our voters in Pflugerville before we could make specific plans on how we can get more of them out to vote. So I decided to give you a little bit of background first on Travis County and how many people are registered in Travis County. And if you look at the very first slide, in Texas, we have more than 17 million people already registered. That includes, it's non-party affiliated. Okay, but if you look on the next slide, specific to Travis County for the years of 2020 and 2022, we have 813,000 voters registered in Travis County. Now, this information comes from the Secretary of State, and they divide their numbers into suspense and non-suspense. Suspense basically means people with bad addresses.
It means what?
People with bad addresses, or, you know, that haven't replied to whatever mail-outs they have been sent. So that's, the way I see it is 65,000 potential. So those are people that we could possibly identify as future voters, because right now they're not voting. Their card says, it has an S on it, and it would say suspense. So something has, those are the people that show up on elections, and their card doesn't match their driver's ID. And so then there's a problem because they can't vote in this possible location. Those are the people that fall under that category of suspense.
What you would be talking about there is basically voter education, updating voter registration.
Yes.
Changing addresses and things like that.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize they have to fill out a new voter registration
Exactly.
to change their address if they
Right.
move, so.
So from the point of view of like looking at how we can help with that, when we can come up with plans of, you know, setting up anywhere in the city and trying to get people, you know, aware of, have you updated your voter registration? Is your address up to date? Is your phone number up to date?
The library is doing a voter registration.
In September, right?
In September 20th.
Yes.
National voter
All right.
registration.
Got it?
Yeah,
Have you all signed up for
the
it?
second to last.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Offered signs.
but before we can get there, I requested from the Secretary of State, our county clerk, and Texas Democratic Party, from all three sources, a list of Pflugerville-specific voters, their age, gender, address, phone number, polling location. Because that way, as a group, we could analyze that and find out what areas of town have the greatest amount of people who are not voting. And then we can find out why. So it's part of the problem solving. Okay? That was the thinking behind all this. Next section is just information to show you how close the.
I was out there, is this Travis County data or Pflugerville data?
Yes. I have only Travis County data because the Secretary of State, the Democratic Party, and the clerk, well, no, Secretary of State and the clerk, county clerk, require 60-day waiting period to provide the information specific to Pflugerville. So they have not provided me with that information yet, but I have made the official request. I made a PIR, a public information request, to the Secretary of State already and to the county clerk, so it's just a waiting game. And when that information is given to us, I'll make sure and, you know, that we all get it electronically.
You said you asked for the Democratic Party. What about the Republican Party?
I don't have a contact in there yet.
But the
They
data-
don't give it to you unless you're a Republican or you're part of a Republican group.
But the data should be the same. It's state data, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, it's just, they're a source, but the data's the same.
yes,
Yeah.
but the point is that you could compare and see.
Yeah, would be
But
interesting.
I'm going to show my colors. I've been a Yellow Dog Democrat for 30 plus years, so I don't have any Republican friends.
I got a lot.
All my friends are poor.
No, I think it's important to know, and that's a really good point.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
data is just the data.
However, Mr. Virginia, the information that's coming from the clerk and the Secretary of State will include both Republican and Democratic. The only one that will be partisan is from the Democratic Party. That's all. And the reason I went to them is because of the 60-day waiting period. I thought, oh, let me yank a few chains, and I thought I could get all that information to us by today from the Democratic Party. Everybody's going on vacation, you know, it's like blah, 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 before school starts, so I couldn't get, if I'm lucky, I can give it to you by Monday.
But this is also from the clerk, I mean, which is all of it's Travis County
Yes,
data.
but it's not specific to Pflugerville.
No, I understand
Yes.
that. That's why, that was my other question, and I got my answer to that question. I think I'm just trying to say that from what I can ascertain, just looking at this, it's objective data.
It is.
Okay, and that's what we need.
Yeah, it is. Some of these just kind of gave me hope. If you look at 2020 election, look how close we are in votes. You know, Democrat and Republican. Holy cow. Yes, that's the state of Texas. Isn't that incredible? I had no idea it was such a close election. I just thought it was a red slam. But no, look at that. That's pretty close. Isn't it impressive? I was impressed by that. We can take, that's statewide. This is county, Travis County. This is interesting information too as well that separates it by mail-in voters, and you can see here who, it's like Democrats like to do mail-in votes more than Republicans. So it helps to explain why there's been a lot of attempt to attack the mail-in votes and make it more difficult for people to vote by mail. And then face-to-face voters who vote on election day. But look at that, we had 8% turnout for the 2018 election throughout the state, which is, I think, very, very interesting. As far as the work that we have to do here, we have to look at factors that affect voter turnout, which is our goal, is to increase voter turnout, voting participation. And one of the factors is voter eligibility, people moving from one place to another. But this information comes from the Higher Ed Coordinating Board. We also have voter beliefs, and I think there's too much depth here, probably above our heads, and that is like to try and figure out why people don't vote. They don't see elections having a positive impact in their life.
May I have your attention, please? The library will close in 30 minutes. The computers and the printer will shut down in 15 minutes. So what is in your work, please print or email it now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Y'all don't have to worry, you can stay after.
Okay, well,
Thank
I'm
you.
not
We got
printing,
connections.
not printing or
Yeah.
emailing, so.
Oops. Others, have, they vote Democratic because their entire family votes Democratic, or everybody's been, they're daughters of the, what is it, the Republic or something like that. So it's more like a family thing. But political scientists think that there's a lot more work that needs to be done to analyze the behaviors of people and why they vote the way that they do. And that's called political socialization. The demographic is what I'm most interested in and stuff that I think would be most meaningful to us. And what affects these demographics is that homeowners tend to vote more than renters. So that immediately tells us, well, maybe we need to start going to the apartment complexes and hitting the people there to see, well, not hitting them literally, I mean, just visiting with them and giving them information about voting and giving them voting incentives. Native Texans are more likely to vote than immigrants. Immigrants definitely do not vote as readily as others, even if they are naturalized.
Even if they're,
Naturalized citizens. They,
Californians?
very good, sir. Very good.
That is a good one.
Now, our state tends to skew towards young Hispanic, but apparently they're not voting. So the Voto Latino is also a place where we can definitely start to look at possibly coming up with a plan to enticing them to vote. Of course, we know that employers have to provide 2 hours for their employees to go out to vote. But some ideas that I thought were interesting were that to better reach the English proficiency, limited English proficiency community, there's been some really interesting results in Australia. They have compulsory voting. That's never going to fly here in Texas. But, no. But giving them incentives will, you know. Studies show that voters simply make better citizens. So I think as a community, we need to invest in voters. I think they end up taking better care of our parks. They end up paying their taxes on time, and they don't get as many tickets because they're invested into the city. Now, the data, Texas and nationally, shows that Black women turned out to vote in droves. They saved our hiney, big time. And so we need to build on that strength from our Black sisters, and therefore our partnership with, you know, the Black Pflugerville is critical. They will continue to be great influencers in the next election. Latino turnout was considerably low. White, Black, and Native voters experienced similar percentage growth, but even though the growth continues to grow, more people are registering and voting, you know, it's still quite a challenge. I like the graphic here because it shows that Asian populations, I guess, turned out big time for this last election statewide, and these are just percentages.
That's just percentages, yeah.
Yes.
Because the Asian population is very small,
Yes,
but its
yeah.
percentage turnout
And this
jumped up.
is regardless of party, or this, because it says Texas Dem Party, so
Yeah,
I'm
it's
assuming
only Democrats.
Oh, this is only Democratic data?
Yes, it's from the Democratic Party. Mhm.
Okay. But that would still, it wouldn't reflect how they voted. This is just the data from the party. Because they can't tell
Well, that's
how.
what I'm trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
they can't tell how anyone voted. They don't know how anyone voted.
That's right.
Well, they do as a demographic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is, you know, showing that across Travis County, this was the increase in the Asian vote regardless of party.
Yes,
That's what
Okay.
I'm saying. I think it's
That's what I
real
was
important to make that very clear that this is universal data. This is not skewed one way or the other.
correct. Now, I know that James was very interested in an equity kind of category to inform voters, so I reached out to the president of the League of Women Voters, Mari Robinson, and she could not meet with us today. Maybe she could meet with us next week if you wanted her to. But we were going to have a phone call, and she had to go to the hospital, so it's been rescheduled for Monday. But it gives you an opportunity to give me questions that I can ask her about an equity category for them to add to their website, which is what I'm going to ask her. You know, they already have like Republicans and what they stand for, so I'm going to ask them about their process and if they can add questions regarding equity that could reflect the candidate's position on equity, so that they could be an added category.
No, that would be very interesting just to have someone from the League of Women Voters come. One of my biggest concerns, you know, in terms of, you know, when I think of equity in voting is just really about access because,
Right.
you know, and that as many people as possible across the political spectrum have access to voting. There are different issues across the spectrum and different interpretations, but, you know, those things that we can all agree on and that, you know, it's just very important that people get to participate in their democracy.
But if we incorporate this data into our listening sessions, it could help inform where we have the listening sessions, as an example.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I just, like, whenever this first came up, I mean, and thank you, Anna, this is a lot of really good data and research. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this because I'm not even sure it's solidified in my mind. That's why this is a work session. How do we frame voting in equity terms? How do we talk about how it ties in? We know that there are, for example, I noticed you get 2 hours off to vote, okay? Well, if there's a line that's holding you up all day long, 2 hours isn't going to cover it, okay?
Holidays is an
Yeah,
idea.
holidays, a voting holiday.
Voting holiday.
Some states actually have that. Texas doesn't, but some states do. So, the ability, because for lower income people, I mean, for all, working people, to get a day off is hard. Do you want to take one of your vacation days, to vote and whatnot? And so, that's the kind of thing I see in terms of access to voting. That would be one of the first steps, something that's universal
Right.
to everyone.
Right.
Like
It's
making.
unpaid time, though, 2 hours off, but it's unpaid time.
It's unpaid even so. And so, that's
They're
what I'm
not
saying.
gonna go.
And then that's gotta be driving time, getting there, getting in your line, going through the process and getting out. And
I
so-
think we have a lot to learn from the people who have dealt with COVID. And one of the greatest lessons is that you go to where the people are, going back full circle, go to where the people are. Take the polling center to where the people are. Maybe
Well, and
some
that-
mobile
yeah,
voting
adequate
polling centers.
polling locations. I will honestly tell you that I have talked to the clerk's office more than once about getting more polling locations in Pflugerville because we are a growing community. And it's just hard to convince, you kind of have to take them by the hand and bring them out here and start driving them around and showing them, see how big we are. We're not just, luckily we're beyond just Foothill Farms now. We have multiple, but that would be one thing, to put more, to continue to grow across the, Travis County, but we can only talk about Pflugerville. We're the Pflugerville Equity
Right,
Commission.
and that was one of the things is to identify targets. Elderly, how do we help the elderly and make it more accessible to the elderly? How do we tap into more women votes and black women votes and the minorities, because these are the ones that are turning out to vote and that are already registered, but they're not getting to the polls. Yes, sir.
What I was gonna say is that, and you hit on it, Pat, a little bit, and maybe we've gotten more, because the last couple of elections, we voted at the Rock, where it's bigger and more, but I remember when we were at Travis County, we wouldn't have maybe 5 machines, and it'd be all the way around the corner. In addition to that, when you have folks standing in line for hours, and they're standing, chairs, I mean,
Dude, I remember.
I mean, a couple of, just prior to the pandemic, I was right out here with a group of guys from another organization. We had chairs, and luckily, then we had done a really good job where we didn't have long lines here to vote. But we actually saw, that was the election that Mike actually lost. He came
Actually,
back.
that's interesting. A very, very quick anecdote. I was a precinct chair when I was a young person, and my polling location that I covered, that I worked all the time as precinct chair, was Bryan Adams High School in Dallas. And we had it in the auditorium. People could sit down in those lines, those chairs in that auditorium. And they wanted to move it. The county clerk called me and we wanted to move it over to a recreation center. And I said, well, you're going to bring me in about 200 chairs? I said, because right now I've got a lot of older voters.
Yeah.
And they can sit down in this. So if you really want me to, I'll tell all of these voters here in this, precinct that you're going to move this, and they're not going to be able to sit down. Do you want me to try to start telling people that? Because I think that that's a very real thing. And particularly
It is.
it for older voters, for having to stand in those long lines and everything. And I think that, maybe that just popped in my head, that perhaps we advocate with our own county clerk. You can look at high schools, you can look at churches, you can look at places that have seating, for people, or you could maybe I don't think they would do this, but a designated spot, this is for older people. Right here, we're gonna have, 65 plus or something, or disabled, and this is where you can go vote. Now, you can have drive-up, they do drive-up, but you've got to do all this proving everything, so it'd be nice to make it more universal. So that's something to, like, in terms of voter access, the literal physical access to being able to vote.
But the other thing, we talked about it at the last.
And that's bipartisan across the board kind of,
Right.
thing.
I'm sorry. I
I'm sorry.
wanted to make sure that I wanted
Yeah.
you to finish your thought.
Yeah.
The other thing is that these referendums are written to be confusing.
Oh,
They're written, and I'm not saying that we can.
yes,
Pick
I
one.
looked into that.
When you talk about voting, when you talk,
I
for
looked-
example,
I
about
looked
vote
into
by
that
mail,
too.
if you read the vote by mail, descriptions and whatnot, you honestly need a translator.
And it.
I looked into that too, and there have been other efforts to get, my first response when we were discussing it was that we need to get a state rep to change the law. Well, that's exactly what was done, and it was around the Richardson area, actually, where they had actually tried to get a state rep to pass a law. All we have to do is find someone, anyone in the state of Texas, to write,
I mean, but even here in Pflugerville, we had that last referendum out about, what was it, with emergency management? Yeah, EMS,
Or
you
the
know,
school, like the school
or-
tax thing was like, what?
people
I don't
didn't
know
know.
what- I don't know what you're asking me to approve, do I want it?
Exactly. I mean, and it was like you had to read it 2 or 3 times, and then people didn't know when they voted. Oh yeah, I voted
Yeah.
no for that. Well, that means you were really in
Voted
favor
yes.
of it. Yeah.
That means you really voted yes.
Exactly,
Yeah, right,
exactly.
yeah. I think
So
that's-
I think that's another area we need to look at. What can
Yeah.
we do to just, I don't know if we.
I
have
think
the
that's an
ability to make
easier
it work.
fix than most of the other things, is like, all we have to do basically is write a request to all the state reps in our area, and sign it from the Equity Commission,
To translate the bills before they come.
to put it in regular English
Plain English.
language.
We are at 7:45, and so, I don't want to take this much longer,
Yep.
because it's getting late, but
We're done?
I think one of the things, this might be some homework from a work session, is to jot down thoughts. This is not necessarily an action item yet. I think it takes a lot of thought, honestly, and a
Right.
lot of really good initial research here. But to write down some of your thinking and whatnot and bring it in, we'll kind of start coalescing this could take some work. This would be one of those retreat kind of things, in fact, where you would really work on.
The library
Because there's
will
so
close in
many,
15 minutes.
I want to
Please
be,
take your final selections to the checkout desk. There will be no checkouts after closing. No new library cards will be issued tonight. If you need someone to pick you up, please call now. Thank you.
I want to make it very, very clear, at least in my mind, equity knows no party, equity knows
Right.
no, okay? This is a bipartisan thing. Access to voting is important. If democracy is going to work, it's important that
It's
everyone have the ability to vote, and that goes for everyone. I think most people also are very aware of one of my roles in the community, but I will fight until the day I die for every person, whether they agree with me or not, to be at the polls, to be able to vote. And, because that's the only way it works.
Yep.
For every citizen to have a voice. And, so I would, and I think because we do have suppressed groups, though, people, and it ranges from people who are old to people who are poor to people who are not as well educated to people who are newer citizens. There's so many groups that have the challenges that you just don't think about because our voting system was designed. I mean, the only people who could vote when the country was formed were educated white males.
Landowners.
Landowners.
Landowners, and we've transitioned a lot, we've grown a lot across the growth of this country, but we need to make for sure that we don't fall backwards. And Pflugerville can be a leader in that, just in terms of the values that we set, and then we can translate those out to a larger community. And that's what
I
the
also
goal is.
think we need to work on that myth that if you vote, then you get called to jury duty. That's why I don't vote.
Right, and I do
It's
think,
like-
did y'all see that really cute little sticker that's viral that kiddo designed about, I voted sticker? There was an I voted contest, and he looks kind of like a little spider, he's real kind of funky and everything. You know, we need to get our own Pflugerville I voted sticker, you know, but we need to, no, we got,
A panther with like a,
Oh,
like an Uncle Sam hat or something tilted to the
well, we
side.
could have a contest or something.
Hey, maybe we can ask our partners for like coupons or discounts or something.
Yeah, on voting, or and talk to our community about, give pay, if it's 2 hours, give paid time off to vote, I mean, just whatever the values are that people get to participate in their country, and that's the most basic way that most people do. Most people are not activists, most people are working stiffs that, but they participate in their country by voting.
Well, it's kind of like, I kind of like the idea of like a moving a poll, like the bookmobile, a voting mobile is kind of hard to say.
Well,
So it's like a moving van, it'll go to all the employees at Taco Bell, for example, and then they all go out to vote, and then go to another place, and they'll.
that would take legislative action.
Well,
Oh, yeah, and that would be very difficult to do.
I'm just working on values right now.
Yeah, that'd be very difficult to get.
Yes, Virginia.
illegal.
It sounds possibility. If we could get a separate sticker, I voted Pflugerville or something that says Pflugerville specific.
That's what I mean. I think
And then get some fast food places to agree that they will give a free drink.
Yep.
Or wine, like from some.
It's $1 off.
Right, some of these guys that have wine,
No, I
bars
think,
around here. in
well,
downtown
or I think
Philadelphia.
that's a really good idea, or posters up, just, don't forget to vote kind of things around town or whatever, just a
You
real,
know,
a voting
by
campaign.
giving them something for voting.
Yeah.
I got it. Discount tickets to Deutschenfest.
There you go, city of Pflugerville.
She
goes, "Ouch."
Maybe you can get us some discounts for voters at the Three-Legged Goat. Talk to your buddy.
I think that would be illegal.
I think it would be too. I think you're right.
Wasn't there some place that gave away free beers for people who voted?
Well, that would be if the proprietor did it. The city couldn't promote it.
Right,
The
right.
proprietor could always
Yeah,
to do that.
The state election code forbids giving anyone anything of value
Right.
in exchange for.
For voting, yeah.
In Chicago, we used to give away those little.
Okay.
You know it's true. You know it's true, O'Malley. You used to get those little.
Were you
little
there,
shots.
you were there during the Daily years or
Oh,
something?
yeah, exactly. Handing out those.
We're not
deals.
gonna do that. No, we're not gonna do that. I don't think that you bribe people to vote, but I do think
No,
that.
I don't think bribing.
Oh, I know you don't,
Rewarding-
Virginia. I know you don't. But I think that it's all about access and encouraging.
Yes.
And making aware but there's also, I know that, and we might have her come, Alice Yee, remember Alice Yee did a lot of work in the Asian community, and that's one of the reasons you saw that
Yeah.
percentage go up so much. And you can do that in different communities with different communication. And the one place that has access to those ears is the city of Pflugerville. I mean, that's, through the things like the Key to the City, through the communication venues that are there. So if this is something that becomes a value of the Equity Commission, that information can be distributed through some of these natural venues and whatnot, I think would be, and that gets to everybody across the board as best we can, so. But anyway, that's we'll keep working. That was really good data, though. That took some time. I can tell that, some research and everything.
Well, I was disappointed because I didn't get the Pflugerville specific ones, but
Right.
it's processed.
Well, I want to come back to this pretty soon, and we'll talk about, because
Well, I got,
we wanted
the
to start-
entire summary report by the Democratic Party emailed to you, so you could continue reading the whole thing. Because I think you only got part of
I
it.
just want to make for sure, I want to be very careful that, and I know that's where you could get the data, but I think it's very important that everything we do is We need to get
Data's
Secretary of State data, because that would be generalized data,
Yeah.
okay? And so when we get that,
Look at the rights as well, our rights to vote,
oh yeah, I saw that earlier, yeah,
letting people know what their rights are.
yeah. So, but I do want to wrap up. I think 8 o'clock is a fine work session. I'm so happy to see you here. So-
Well,
Really?
Glad to be here and not in the hospital anymore. That's for
I didn't
sure.
know you were in the hospital,
know
Virginia. I
that.
didn't know any of that.
We just sent flowers or something.
I
Well,
had
I-
a pretty bad case of COVID,
Oh my God, darling, I didn't know.
and
You should have said something. I just talked to you.
Your son should have told us. No, I'm so happy you're
but
okay.
I'm very glad to be out, and hopefully by the end of the week I'll be off oxygen.
I hope so too, Virginia.
Great to see you, Virginia.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, you're tough. You're tough.
Yeah, I'm tough.
We already knew that.
Okay, so mull this over. We have action items really coming out of 3A. This is an ongoing conversation until we kind of get, we can start, any notes you want to jot down and bring into a meeting when this is on the agenda, so we can start making something harder. That would be great, more solid. Because I think that if you go to the council with something like this, you need to have, like solid recommendations, and whatnot. So, anyway, does anyone else have anything quick to say? As I recall, we don't have to have a motion to adjourn. That's what I get told every single meeting, that I call for a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
Anyway, okay. Well, we are now adjourned, and it is, what time do you have on your phone, James?
I have actually, oops, my phone.
Is it 7:55? 7:55. Okay, you guys have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Good meeting. Good meeting.